Brilliant. Right, so thank you everyone for joining. So this entire session, it's like the primary digital champions. So going around the room there and introducing, there's certainly an emphasis around computing leadership, and that tends to be the way that sort of sits alongside whoever's taking responsibility for digital strategy. So as part of your roles, it's not just that computing curriculum, it's also like, how does technology support wider teaching and learning? So that might be like accessibility, it might be supporting SEND, or helping children to gain better outcomes, or it might be some of these points about like workflow, how to support staff with, well, some speedier ways you can use tech, or maybe some of the AI trials that you've been part of. So as I jump through, I'll give you a bit of background, and then I'll talk about, we'll sort of narrow things down into a few different activities. But yeah, so this is me. So I'm the primary digital lead. So I work across the 6 primary schools. So this is what I'm hoping to cover today. I'll just unpack this overview of what the digital strategy actually is. Then I want to look at like the primary action plan, so you can see the alignment between all of the schools, and also give you a chance really to look at your own school and maybe make some adjustments, sort of talk about or share what you think is going to be useful, especially looking now at like next year. Then all of the schools have actually got a bit of emphasis this term at using Google Classroom and trying it out. And all of you as leaders, so thank you for joining, are the people that we're going to be doing this with. So I thought I'd just do a quick walkthrough of Google Classroom and looking like at a bit of a cross-curricular way to use it, before looking at the accessibility features that can go with it, and then hopefully gaining some feedback from all of you. So to start with, well, who are the digital champions? They're essentially all of you across the 6 different primaries, and in some cases we've got multiple digital champions. I believe you've got your exams coming up. So is it the 7th of July that you're supposed to be having that? Maybe it's the 3rd of July that you've got someone called Matt Harrison coming in, and is he working with you to do them?
I didn't know about that.
Okay.
Yes.
Me neither.
I think he's delivering like a bit of a workshop just to get you into the actual exam phase. But during some of the last visits that I did was essentially, I shared some of the resources like the YouTube videos, the slides that can be there to help you really. Has anyone had a go at their exam?
Which exam?
The level 1 educator or the level 2?
Yeah, I passed last month. Yeah, it's quite difficult, got to say.
What did you
It's the wording. When I realised what they was actually asking, I thought, well, yeah, I know how to do this. I found the lab sessions were quite easy, but the actual questions were, I thought they were, the way they were worded was a bit difficult.
Some of the language might not be used, how you've trained on it. Yeah.
Mm.
Which exam? Sorry, we're not talking about Google.
Yeah, level
1.
one.
I've done that. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you find it, Tom?
Well, after conversation with Lawrence, I think we discussed this, Pip, last time. He said it was an open book exam. So we said, can we use Gemini? And he said yes. And I used it. So I did the multiple choice myself, and then I checked my answers on Gemini. I would say I got about 80% of them right. Yeah, but just to make sure, you know, I was doing it right. But he said, yeah, basically I was told I could use AI, so I used Gemini, and that helped me. And then that was for the multiple choice, and the rest of it I could do. I think there was one where again I used Gemini, and I was like, how do I do this? What was the time? It was about three hours, is it? Yeah. But I think I think some of that I sort of went in there and felt like I don't need to do too much practice because I've got a bit of experience with Google, which was true. But there was some trickier bits which I didn't know how to navigate quite as confidently as I thought I would. So yeah, it's good to spend time using the interface, getting used to it.
Yeah, totally. You're exactly right. It's an open book exam. So like you can go out and you can check. Like when I redid mine in January, and if I wasn't sure of something, I'd copy and paste the question, put it out and make sure I've understood the language, you read the help pages. And it's a nice way. I just did my Gemini one actually last week, which is multiple choice and 35 questions. And I had the same experience, like, oh, if I need to check it, then I can just check like that to make sure. Cool. Hopefully then we'll be able to move forward and look at like the level 2, and that would be a nice step, I think, just in terms of progression for yourselves as digital champions.
Yeah.
Right, across the year then, this is how the support's broken down. So into the SBCAT Digital Resource Hub, which I've shared when I've been in your schools, Tech Tuesday sessions. I would love to get a bit of feedback on those. The boot camps, and then we do offer like staff training sessions, which is specific. So I know like this week coming in, Tom, I'm going to be doing a staff training with your staff as well. So I'll try and frame it when I come in and have an afternoon session so we can include those two. Brilliant. And that chat space is something that we were debating and is in the pipeline as such. Right, I'll just give you a bit of an overview then, and just letting Jed in. There we go. About the digital strategy itself. So this digital strategy, just to break it down, this is what everyone's working towards across the trust. So enhance teaching, learning and outcomes, promote equity and inclusion, and supporting staff well-being. So when I'm coming in and speaking to you about and showing you the action plans, hi Jed, they'll be broken down into these 3 topics essentially. So with that in mind, if I jump forward in a moment, I'm going to show you this action plan, and I want you just to review it, take a look at it, and also there'll be your individualized school action plans, and just see like where you think we are, if we're up to date, and if there's anything that you want to add. And after which, yeah, we'll just break down some ideas really about what we might do. Just to highlight though, when it comes to technology, every setting can essentially be different, and we go through this model of like the SAMA approach to technology integration, which means like your substitution. So today we could be sat in a room having this meeting, and we could all be taking notes on paper. We are having this meeting and we substitute the paper for writing notes online. So that's substitution. When you get towards a sort of redefinition of learning, that's when children might be augmenting their experience, because they have some doing pre-recorded content, some might be doing it like flipped, they might be accessing resources that they won't be able to do before, and it's transformative because children who might not have been able to type or write are doing a different way of finding a different way of presenting their learning. And then also with AI, we have this FAST model, which is about fairness, accountability, sustainability, and transparency. Okay. So what I'll do now, I'm going to make sure you've all got these slides, and things should be linked out for you. Let me just put that in. So firstly, this is the action plan itself, which is the one that sits above, and it's like a top level. So all of the primary schools. And then if I just go through, I've linked in your individual action plans on the names here. So when you access the slides, if I just break this down and stop presenting for a moment, if you click on your link like this, it should take you through to an action plan. And I think just spend a couple minutes really taking a look at it and seeing what's actually on there, and then also looking at the wider action plan as well. Okay, so I'll give you a few minutes just to load those things up so you know that we're all sort of on the same hymn sheet. And if you got any questions, let me know.
It's asking me for access to the second link.
To your action plan.
Yeah, it's asking me for permission. No, what was the second link you sent? The slides.
Yeah, just the whole slide decks. Yeah. Oh, cool. Let me open things up. That should be fixed for you now.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah.
So I'll give you another minute to have a look, then we can just have like a bit of a chat really about it. But I'd like to talk a bit more strategically in regards to like where do you think what might be useful for us to come together and work on for next year? All right, cool. If I just bring us back together, hopefully. So you should have all seen these action plans before. They've been shared. But ideally, it will help you to realize like on there is how they're set up. And this is what we are going to be coming back to. So if I just jump onto this slide, really, as sort of a breakout group. So I wanted to open it up as a discussion, and your action plans very much look at what's been achieved throughout the entire year. And then when I'm coming in each time, we're working on different areas to focus. And as I mentioned, like at the moment, we're very much looking at using Google Classroom and those tools. But I wanted to have this as a discussion now. So like, how can we sort of make this group like, well, how can we collaborate together and how can we make sure that your school's getting what they need? So are there any sort of reflections that you as an individual might think you want support with or your school would want specific help with? I'm just interested to see what you think as digital champions. Does anyone want to start us off?
I feel like we're kind of on our way to get there. I'm kind of in the middle of setting up Google Classroom for computing, but we haven't looked at setting up for any other subjects. So that's what we need to kind of focus on next.
So you're looking for that sort of shared software between staff?
Yeah.
So more support on setup. Yeah, cool. Anything else that people are thinking?
Yeah, I think similarly to Annette, we've introduced Google Classroom to everybody. I think there's been a few people using it in different ways, and that's something that we're going to try and address now. And yeah, it's just getting people using things consistently and properly, and helping those who struggle a little bit with using technology in general, because I think there's the sort of element where people are quite comfortable using slides and You can even go onto websites now and just use the slides straight off the website. But I think that action of putting things onto Google Classroom, even just for computing, is challenging to get. It's challenging to get the whole staff doing that consistently before you can even then move to other subjects. Although we have said that we'll try and do some other, maybe humanities or something on there going forward, but really need to sort out, you know, the challenge of getting everybody on board.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's similar for us. Kind of me and Gemma, other computer lead, have started getting used to these things, and then it's finding time to show it to people. And then once you show it in a staff meeting, often people want to kind of talk to you about it again because they haven't quite got it, because they kind of need to do it physically, like, oh, can you show me how to do it, and things like that. And I guess it often comes down to like a time thing. And yeah, it really depends on people's kind of knowledge of technology in the first place, I think. And also in terms of how we deliver lessons, we're on Smartboard, and that kind of doesn't always match with the Google side. And I think where so much of our planning that we use year on year is on there, that's sometimes a bit, I think that will be a barrier if we did want to move on to slides. Yeah.
That's shared across loads of schools. I think primary get that a lot more than secondary, just because of the use of like Smartboard or Active Inspire. Has anyone thought of where they might be going for their school if they're not going to continue with like Smart? Is it they're going to look at Google Slides, or has anyone considered anything else?
Yeah, I've just thought about slides.
Yeah, I haven't had any deep conversations, but I would assume, since we're moving towards being a Google school, that's where we're going. There was some conversation about I've been given admin rights now on Google, which helps, but opening a centralized point where we can start saving computing planning, even if it's used in Google Classroom. It's good to have it saved somewhere, and then we can start adding to that, because right now everything's on Microsoft, and I think people still need that centralized area where they can access, you know, the same as they would on Office, and go in and find their planning. But that would probably necessitate us using Google Slides, as saying that it is not as complicated as it looks to turn a PowerPoint into Google Slides. So I think there's a big barrier of fear for many people when you talk about it, but it's not probably quite as bad as it looks, I think.
I was thinking, Tom, what it might be an idea if computing initially, that's the lesson we do on Google Slides. That's our Google Slides lesson. That isn't the PowerPoint. Then it'll be like geography. We've just bought into a new scheme.
Yeah.
So geography next term. That's the Google. Remember, you got it on Google. I don't know. I mean, you by end of the year maybe, or year and a half, you'll be totally immersed in Google. If that's the direction of travel, it might just be a way of doing it strategically, rather than going right. We've got all running for a bus. It's like let's plan it out bit by bit.
And that timeline needs to be really clear for everyone, doesn't it? And it's one of those tricky things, because you say, right, we're gonna do it, but it's hard when you want everyone to be doing something, and then you've got people like, I don't know, you've got a supply teacher here and whatever, and you're like, no, come on, we all need to do this. But yeah, I'd say it's quite a tricky thing to sort of get everybody on board. But I think PDM's important to have that exposure in front of people and say, right, look, it's not as hard as it looks. Let's do it together. And so there again, getting the Chromebooks out. I mean, it's easy to say, isn't it, when everyone's here, but just in meetings, getting the Chromebooks out and making sure everybody's like using them, because in our case we bought heavily into Chromebooks, and teachers are still using laptops for the most part for teaching. So yeah,
those inconsistencies are other things. Like you just want to manage, you don't have to be like incredibly ambitious. You just have to try and manage those and get everyone like fundamentally at the same point, and then you can really proceed from there. But those foundations are really important. During your visits next week, I'm going to be looking at these action plans, review for next year, but also thinking of a statement to go in your wider school development plan, which will have something to do with digital, because then that means that all the teachers are going to see that document, and then that means you can start to sort of progress along that step. So I'll be speaking with you when I come in, but also to Joanne, who's like overseeing the primary learning itself as well. Right, just to sort of move on. So I wanted to highlight Google Classroom really quickly and just give a quick sort of demo. So I know loads of, well, digital champions here, we all know what we're doing, but just to sort of unpick it. So different types of assignment you can do: assignment, quiz assignment, questions, materials. To be honest, I use assignment for everything. And what I'm going to showcase is just a really quick sort of setup, which would work really well. Whenever I'm sharing with staff, I always say, like, structure your classroom. You want to be putting in your topics and then your lessons within those topics. And I think getting things set up that way is just such a quick win. And what I've spoken to you when I've come in as all these digital champions is we've highlighted at the end of the academic year, you can copy that entire Google Classroom and roll it again. So that's why it's so helpful to get it set up correctly the first time. And then Google Classroom is really the sort of base of you running this SAMR model of integration. So you can see here the substitution sort of worksheet would just go to a Google Doc, but then we could add images and audio, modifying by doing collaborative projects. You can even run the things like accessibility over the top, and then the redefinition, sort of creating videos, projects, film, ways you might never have done it before. And it's not about aiming to sort of redefine learning all of the time. It's about just striking a balance. And if you've got these devices on demand, like this tech that we're talking about, how can you best use them? So I'll jump in and I'm just going to show a sort of Google Classroom setup. And I've got this lesson about the Romans. The idea of this part is when I was coming into your schools next week, we were going to try and model using Google Classroom to run a lesson and see how it goes, essentially, and hopefully run a bit of accessibility over the top. So if I jump in and share this. So this is one of my classrooms, just to highlight that, like, quick. If I wanted to at the end of my year, I can just copy and remake that class, which is a really nice feature. If I jump in again and go across the classwork, this is where I want to be creating all of these topics. So I tend to put them in, and when I've made them for you, I've put them in with emojis because I quite like doing that. But if I just go on history of the Romans, I can find it there. Another tip that people don't know is I can do the 3 dots here and copy this link. So when I've used this, I've given children active timetables to join, and that link's always going to stay the same. So it's quite nice that someone can click that and go straight into their session. Right. So what I'll do now, I'm going to look at just making an actual lesson. So I'm going to go to create and assign in order to do this. So assignment. Now, this lesson, I want to look at giving children the teaching content. So instead of children all watching me at the front of the class, they're going to be able to join and go through the slides, which is kind of going to help me to present the material in small steps, but also for children to scaffold their learning. So if I just go lesson 1, and then I'll just call, what was life like in the Roman army? Instructions, I tend to put my success criteria, because I will go and load this up at the front of the session and then read through this with them. I've also seen people do steps to success here too, which could obviously also fit. Okay. Because, as I mentioned, I'm going to give children access to the slides. Let me just jump over here. Hopefully my computer's going to load this. So I made these slides earlier using Gemini. So just about what life's like in the Roman army. So I'd obviously say you need to edit and make the slides as to what they should be. Try to make them as close as possible to what your school teaching and learning policy is, but just to show that you can put them together this way. So to start with, this is a Google Slides presentation. I'll open it up and I'm just going to copy this link and put it directly into Google Classroom. So I'll share this link inside instead. Now, these are my teaching slides. So I want it as students can view the file only. So they should only be able to access. They're not actually going to be making any changes to those. When I've seen this done really well, I've seen people do like maths activities or use video content in their slides. So children can re-watch a video if they need further information or explanation, and also letting children have access so they can push on if they want to go to a further challenge. So then all of a sudden you're essentially scaffolding learning using slides. In this lesson, I wanted the children to, in a cross-curricular way, to have their own slide deck. And then they were going to go through and essentially under the different headings, answer who joined the Roman army, what are the weapons and equipment, daily life on the march. So essentially go through these and create their own deck. So this is a really nice sort of cross-curricular way of a child actually creating their work using like Google Slides, using a presentation. So I'll jump back across over to Google Classroom. And when I drop this link in instead of having students can view the file, this time I'll make sure there's a copy for each student. So that really is when they're talking about cross-curricular or when you're setting up these computing lessons ready for next week. Those are the steps you need to take. I actually had a bit of a play earlier with using Notebook LM around this lesson. And I got it to create a little infographic, which I thought was quite cool. So if it will load up for me. So this was all about essentially what life's like for a Roman soldier. So it's quite a nice way of breaking down, but I thought, oh, actually I could use that as a bit of a word map for that child, just to help them to put those slides together. So really, here we go. Students can view my teaching content, so they can go through it with me. Then I've got a copy for each student in terms of what they're going to be working on. And if I wanted to go out and just pull up a resource, so I always go to Ducksters. Then I can just make sure that I've got that stuck into my learning as well. So there we go, another link. When that's done, then I'm just going to make sure it's under the Romans like that. And then that's really just good to go. So I can assign it. So I know as digital champions, that's probably quite basic for you, but just because I know we've got the sessions next week, making sure that we've got that sort of a line set up. So if I jump across now, this is then what a pupil would see. So if it's worked really quickly, you'll see the child has their work up in the corner. So that child can click into that and only they will see the work. So if I just jump in, this is now my version, and you can see at the top, I've got my name on it, which is just really useful to help me work that out. And then also, if I just go back, you can see I've got these other resources. So I've got this image here, which is going through that essential word map created through Notebook LM, which might be a cool thing for you to have a look at. And also I've got the teaching slides there. So that's just a real quick run through of Google Classroom. And just to highlight what's transformative about using Google Classroom in this way, and why it's a really nice way of broaching cross-curricular learning, is teachers will be able to, it fits like history or geography very well, because at some point they'll probably be creating things like fact files, and this way you can give them the slides, you can give them all the resources that they need in order to go and research. But also as a teacher, you have that overview, so you can click in and you can actually see the learners' files and you can edit them live. So it works really well. When we're coming into the sessions next week, that's what I'm really going to be looking for. So I'll just stop sharing there. Are there any questions about what I just shared? Has anyone had a go at doing that, and what sort of success have they had?
Haven't had a go at doing that yet. So for next week, do you want us to set one up, like to show that we know how to set one up, or?
Good question. It's up to you. I'll come in early so we can set it up together at
Okay.
that time, just to give you the support. But for total clarity, like I think Tom at St. Anthony's, you've set up your computing, right? So we sort of looked at that together. And Annette, you've got the same.
Yep.
Yeah, I've done computing on Google Classrooms, so like I could show that as well.
Yeah, totally. I've just
Okay.
used Romans as an example.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So Google
And-
Classroom, I think we're wanting children to have the exposure to using their devices to actually access the resource. And
Yeah.
then that's something that you can just transfer across. Cool.
Okay.
Are there any other questions about that?
Also, sorry. Is the idea like, say as you're teaching, they've got it in front of them, and as you're speaking through the information, they're clicking through, or is it something they can refer to after and go back to slides when they're creating their own? In your Romans example.
Like when I've used it like that, I tend to let them see the slides in front of them. But because I put like AFL questions through there, and then I think if you are sort of using technology in that way, you're turning in more into like a facilitator instead of like you being at the front of the class. So that's where I've had success with it. At this stage, it's just about exposure and trying and see what things work well. You sort of led me into my second point. So the reason you might consider giving the children access to the Google Slides and letting them have that device in front of them is because then they can have the accessibility controls throughout the lesson. So if I jump into Ducksters on the second screen, I'm just going to share my entire screen, and hopefully you'll be able to see. Cool. So Google's just really good in Chromebooks for accessibility. So making sure that all children like have all the options there in order to help them to understand what's actually happening and scaffolding essentially. So on the bottom of my screen here, if the children are on their Chromebooks, then I'll be able to jump in and access these accessibility features. So these accessibility features, really nice ones. So I've got dictation turned on. Select to speak would mean that I can highlight the text right in front of me. Then you've got things like color inversion, which will just change things up for you. The docked magnifier, I see children using quite a lot. So if I was to scroll down, it will just pull it up at the top of your screen. So I know Ofsted's now looking at like, oh, your children with specific EHCP plans. How is it that you're catering for them? So these are some real quick wins looking at accessibility features in this way. And yeah, that's why I sort of recommend doing it and getting the devices out. Let's just turn that feature back off. Because I'm on my second screen, I'm creating a bit of a problem for myself. Here we go. You'll also see your children probably going for like the large mouse cursors. That tends to happen quite a lot though. So just be aware. Then another way that you could use this. So when your Chromebooks are up and the children are accessing a resource, we've just showed some of the basic accessibility controls. Just a reminder that up here, you've got reading mode. So this should be pinned across your devices. If it's not, you can go on the 3 dots here, scroll down to more tools, and you'll find that you've got reading mode. So what reading mode's going to do when I open it up like this, so you can see on the right panels loaded up now, and then it should just really mirror exactly what the text is on the side. So if I just highlight, hopefully this is going to come up. It's the thing with live demoing. Let's go again. There you go. So you can see it's just pulled up exactly the same content that's over on the side, but just in a more like child-friendly way. So what's quite nice about here is if a child wanted to just get the entire text read to them, they can hit the play button up there. And then there's additional features. So I can change what the color is, can change the font. They're all things that will help the children essentially to understand the information that you're giving them. So there's a big push about technology being used to support children's dignity in learning, which means that not everyone knows that they're using these personalized learning experiences. And it's not like they're having to sit by an adult the whole time, but they are being able to access the resource, which is something that I'd certainly like to work on across all the schools. Cool. If those things aren't set up, that's something that I think I asked your MSP contacts in the after last sessions. So when we come in, we'll hopefully, I'll try and team teach with you and run some of these things live, and we can see how they go and just see what the experience is like. Okay. Any questions about
that? Just quickly, I
think you've just frozen, Tom. I think he's just gone. It's all good. I'll just continue.
I'm just having a go at making, you did an infographic using Notebook LM. So I you could do that. So I've just literally gathered something from PSHE, and it's on the infographic deck on the right hand side. It's come up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite good, isn't it? That's quite bloody useful.
I've seen teachers do it for displays.
Right.
So when they've got a new topic, they'll get that infographic and they'll stick it up straight away. I think that's quite a nice way. You've got an immediate, it's responding to your learning, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But also might be helpful for some of your your leaders across the school if they want to break down maybe one of the actions for the playground,
Yeah, that's great.
I'll just drop this into the chat as well for you. So this is a website which essentially has all those accessibility features just broken down. And then I'll just jump back in and finish things off. Okay. So I've sort of gone through the accessibility features already, but all these slides will be there for you, but this is the resource I've just shared, the Chrome OS Accessibility Guide. So this has been put together by Google Education Group England, which it would be great if you wanted to join. It's just a community group. If you've got any questions about Google, then you can just ask in there. And there's about 150 members all across England that will try and answer and help that. It's a really nice group to be part of because you start to recognize some of the trainers, the people within there, and that might support you in your own individual journeys as you go through. For example, like there's Bet Show next year, and they have the Google Education groups come together there as part of champions. So it might be a really nice thing for you to do. Right. So,
but would you recommend going to that Bet Fair? I mean, years ago, something to do as a trust or get ourselves down there.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's a really good thing to go to. For me, there's some great sessions. Last year was a lot talking about AI, and it depends where you are for primary. Sometimes that's not the most relevant because you might not be using it to that level. But in terms of seeing new tech, it's one of the best places you can go to. And I think if you ever get the chance to present there, which I know Happy to Host would love to sort of hear voices from all of the educators as part of the trust. So that might be a really cool thing to do. Yeah. All right. So just to finish, really, we're going to be giving out this feedback document. So this is a questionnaire for you to complete. And I want you just to be as honest as possible and be like, okay, what support do we need? How would we rate the support that's actually happened? So there's been obviously Tech Tuesdays going throughout the entire year, but these have been attended intermittently or not had the attendance, I guess, of what I would have expected. So trying to unpick why is that and what model would be better moving forward. So that's complete that, and then it will be anonymous, or it means that you can be as truthful as you possibly want, So that's your space. So that's really everything I wanted to cover. You've got some time now, and I'll drop that link in for the actual questionnaire if you wanted to complete it. Otherwise, this is your time really for questions. And otherwise, I'm really looking forward to coming in next week and working with you all. So let me just pull this up.
I don't know if you caught any of my question earlier, Pip.
Yeah, you did drop out.
Twice I've had the internet go down on this laptop. Actually, it's anyway. Yeah, so just regarding sort of tips on how to find fluency on these things, because you know, I think when I'm spending time with them, I'm getting to know and doing my Google champions and whatnot, I'm getting to know it. But you want the children, because when you're showing me some of the, you know, the reading, the magnifier, all of that looks great, but you also don't want children just mucking around in the classroom. And I feel like once they're fluent and they know how to use this, then they're not anymore. And obviously, you know, just putting it out there is going to help. But if you had any tips on how to sort of arrive there quicker with staff or with students, that'd be useful. Yeah.
So I think there will always be that process of the children will just try and explore and click on as many as possible. I think I sort of let my last school, where we were doing this a lot, we did just let the children have a bit of choice. But maybe you could say, look, 5 minutes, have a look and have an explore. Yeah. And after that point, we're not going to be doing that. But also that kind of comes into your sort of management of the entire class and how the devices are being used. So like counting down like the 3, 2, 1, turn the screen round to face you, so they're not playing on the keyboards. Then the other thing people say is like Pac-Man, so do the clamshell on the lid, which also works. So yeah, I think the children will want to look at them, but just try and put a time limit on how long that's going to take. Then there is the resource that I just shared in the chat. So let me just show you that quickly, which is this Chrome OS Accessibility Guide. So this explains what the feature actually is. So when it comes to staff and a bit of exposure for that, this would be the resource which you could essentially show them and go, look, this is what's out there. And your Senko will like it because it's broken down into like vision, hearing, motor, learning, which is how they sort of want things to be presented in terms of looking at what the needs are of the children.
Okay. Thanks.
And I think, Tom, like we can do that next week together if you want. So I can just do that little bit of delivery and talk about the accessibility features, and then we can manage it and see what the children go for. Cool.
I was going to say, regarding the Google Classroom, like putting everything on there, I mean, I'm only doing it for computing at the moment, but it's just made life easier for myself and the children. Because sometimes there's the answers there. So if they're really struggling, rather than just putting their hand up, waiting, they can just go on there and, you know, look at the answers and then try and work it out themselves. It has made life easier.
That's really great to hear. I think it obviously is a bit of a task, isn't it, putting the computing up?
It is time consuming, but once it's done, it's there forever.
Yeah,
you don't have to keep doing it.
Totally. And then that's for me, like the biggest success I sort of had is realizing that children can just scaffold their own learning. You know, go and find that slide, go back to it. And then also the way it can support collaboration. So sometimes I just say like one device between two and you can talk about it. You don't always have to have all these devices up one-on-one, you know? So that can really help. I think pushing for this like blended model where you might have a device and then you've got paper as well, that's really a great place to be. But obviously just choose what fits your school. But as digital champions, the conversation is sort of, it's a bit of guinea pig work, isn't it? Like trying out, seeing how it goes. If there's barriers, what are they? So then when you come to the members of staff and you're trying to share what you've done, you want to try and get it to work as well as possible for them. Yeah. But fair play to you for putting them all up. That's great. Really, really good.
I mean, with me, I'm putting them up there for me
Yeah.
because I'm the only one that teaches computing.
Yeah.
I do want to push it out to, we talked about geography, didn't we? We need to do that, I think.
Yeah, that's why I sort of highlight that cross-curricular approach, because I can see that's how people might be a quick win for them. And like, if you wanted to do, then you can go a bit further. If you wanted like an AFL tool, if you wanted to use Kahoot, then you put the link up on there as well. So then people just start realizing, oh, this is so much quicker for children to go to these different resources just through Google Classroom.
I think it'll have to be a bit of a habit, because what happens we've recently got a new geography unit and a new geography program, but people like this off-the-shelf style thing where, and Google Classroom, I can imagine, would be an extra step at the moment. Right now, they just go, they open the slides, and then, so and also making sure it works for the lesson, not doing it for the sake of it. I think the conversation I'd have is sort of, if we were to start doing this for everyone, if it's a research lesson, then that's ideal. If they're going to look through all the slides on the computer in front of them and then their task involves drawing, then maybe it's not worth getting the Chromebooks out. So
choose. I think just get exactly, you want staff to be able to pick when to use it or when not. But the first step is like the skill up, isn't it? So people are in the best position in order to make that decision. And I think that's where we'll probably come out like wanting the schools. Well, the reason we're looking for everyone or wider groups to get their level 1 is so they can make these decisions. And then hopefully it's going to support children's outcomes at the end of the day, isn't it? But yeah, over reliance, I know there can be pushback on families as well about things like screen time. So if that is the case and that you're finding messages like that coming, it is really useful to be more tactful about when you are putting the tech in front and when you're not. Right, I'm going to leave it there. So yeah, I'll come in next week, and I'm really looking forward to working on these. And then also there's a few people might try and get on this level 2 and start thinking about that in terms of what's next. Okay, but thanks a lot. And any questions, please just reach out and email me. Yeah. All right, thanks.
Thanks,
Thank
Phil.
you.
See you next week.